Buenas, Biba Betnes, and welcome to the Guam Congress Hall. Buenas and Afade. This public hearing is now called to order, and the time is 1:05 Chamorro Standard Time on this Fiesta Friday afternoon. Today's date is Friday, September 26, 2025. This hearing is being conducted by myself, Senator Chris Malfunction Barnett, the Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Economic Investment, Military Buildup, Regional Relations, Technology, Regulatory Affairs, Justice, Elections, and Retirement. On our public notices to comply with the open government law, notices of this hearing were published on KUAM TV and the public notice portal on Friday, September 19th, 2025. And the second notice went out on Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. Notices were also disseminated to all senators and media outlets via email. I'd like to recognize those who are here in person, and of course those watching from home, whether that's on our YouTube channel or on the TV channels. Undonkuluna Siduos Masi, and welcome to your Guam legislature. I'd also like to welcome my colleague present joining us today, Senator Sean Gumatautau. Siduos Masi, Senator, for your participation. Colleagues, and copies of this legislation and documents received ahead of this hearing can be accessed through the Google Drive link, which was emailed to you in advance. For the listening public, you can find the legislation on the Guam Legislature's website at guamlegislature.gov. That's guamlegislature.gov. We get a lot of comments about people not being able to access the website, so it was changed to .gov. If you need assistance, please feel free to call our hardworking staff here at the legislature at 671-472-3465. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the rules of engagement. During this public hearing, when you speak, please be sure to speak directly into the microphone. And for the record, please state your name, position, and who you represent. I ask that those who are testifying today stay seated for any questions my colleagues may have, and then you'll be excused. I respectfully also ask that we conduct ourselves professionally and respect each other's opinion. Those individuals who do not comply with these rules will be removed from the room and prohibited from further participation. On the agenda today, the bills for discussion this afternoon are as follows. Bill number 185-38, COR, introduced by Senator Telo T. Taitague, the chair of the committee. An act to amend subsection 3110 of Chapter 3, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, as enacted by Public Law 38-32, relative to the term of appointment for registration clerks. Also on the agenda, Bill number 189-38, COR, also introduced by Senator Taitague, an act to repeal and reenact Chapter 3, Title 6, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations, and adopt the attached Exhibits A, B, and C relative to updating the Guam Election Commission election campaign contributions and expenditures, rules and regulations, and report forms. The third and final bill on the agenda, Bill 190-38, COR, again introduced by Senator Taitague, an act to add a new Chapter 5 to Title 6 of the Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to adopting the updated Guam Election Manual pursuant to Chapter 9, Title 5, Guam Code Annotated. We'll now proceed to moving on to the first agenda item, which is Bill number 185-38 COR. Yes, I'd also like to recognize the chair of the committee, Senator Telo Taitague, who is present with us on the Zoom, and she's right up there. Hi, Senator. Thank you. And I know she's got some questions, so when we get to the question portion of the hearing, we'll be sure to recognize you for those. So the first item on the agenda, Bill number 185-38, introduced again by Senator Taitague, an act to amend subsection 3110 of Chapter 3, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, as enacted by Public Law 38-32, relative to the term of appointment for registration clerks. On the fiscal note, the Bill 185-38 received a fiscal note waiver from the Bureau of Budget and Management Research, noting that the proposed amendment is administrative in nature and poses no additional fiscal impact upon any funds of the government of Guam in fiscal year 2025. An initial review of the bill was conducted by the legislature's legal counsel with no recommendations at this time, but the bill also remains under review. A public hearing invitation to provide testimony was sent to the following: the Guam Election Commission, the Office of the Public Auditor, the Democrat Party of Guam, and the Republican Party of Guam. Good afternoon, and again, thank you, Sidus Masi, for joining us today on this Biba Betness. I want to begin by recognizing the Guam Election Commission, their dedicated and hardworking staff, and especially their hardworking registration clerks. Your commitment to ensuring that every eligible voter has access to the ballot is the backbone of our democracy, and I'm truly grateful for the work you do, especially during election season. I was able to successfully, when the pace and pressure intensifies, of course, as we're heading into a pretty juicy election season right now, coming up in 2026, Taitague. Earlier this term, with the support of my colleague, Senator Taitague was able to successfully override the veto of Bill number 54-38 COR, which is now Public Law 38-32. Through Public Law 38-32, we updated the appointment process for registration clerks and clarified their role in supporting voter registration efforts. With that said, Bill number 185-38 proposes a small but practical adjustment, shortening the appointment period for registration clerks from 45 days before a general election, as enacted in Public Law 38-32, to 21 days before any election. This change comes directly from feedback provided by the Guam Election Commission, who has stated that it's not about reducing support, it's about ensuring the law reflects operational realities. It also gives GEC the flexibility to set appropriate terms for special elections, plebiscites, and other electoral contests outside the general election cycle. Today's hearing is an opportunity to listen, hopefully learn, and ensure that any changes we consider continue to serve the interests of the people of Guam. I look forward to hearing your insights and working together to keep our election laws responsive, efficient, and fair. Sidus Masi. At this time, we'll now receive testimony from on Bill 185-308 COR, starting with the Guam Election Commission represented today. I want to also recognize Ms. Ana Ramirez and Mr. Thompson Augustine in the gallery. Thank you so much for being here. As the Executive Director, Maria Pangilinan, takes a seat and gets ready to provide testimony. Sidus Masi, Executive Director Pangilinan, and buenas.
Yeah. Half a day, Madam Chairwoman Telo and Mr. Vice Chairman Chris and Senator Sean. Sidus Masi for the opportunity to provide testimony on Bill 185-38. The bill proposes to amend the deadline for the appointment of volunteer voter registration clerks, changing it from 45 days to 21 days before an election. We respectfully request that an additional section be added to the bill to amend 3 GCA Section 3104, times of registration, to be consistent with the close of district registration 15 days before an election. 3 GCA Section 3104, times of registration reads, we respectfully request that instead of 10 days, the 10 days be stricken out to be replaced by 15 days prior to any election. The registration roll shall be closed and no further affidavits of registration shall be accepted by the Commission. This section was included in Bill 54-38, but was omitted in the enacted Public Law 38-32. With these changes, volunteer voter registration, online and motor voter registration will all cease 21 days before an election, and district registration at mayor's offices and at the Guam Election Commission will continue until 15 days before an election. With the addition of online and motor voter registration, the number of registered voters was at its highest for the 2024 general election at 62,098. Sidus Masi, and we are here to take your questions.
Sijos Masi, Executive Director Pangilinan. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Senator Telo Taitague, who's attending via Zoom for any questions she might have on the bill. Sijos Masi, Senadora, and thank you. Please proceed. Stand by. We're just going to check audio visual because Senator?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
I got you now. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Donkalusi Zusmasi, Mr. Chair, and for taking on this public hearing. As I mentioned earlier, that I didn't want to procrastinate and wait on any election bills before the new year. As you mentioned earlier, it's going to be a very it's going to be a rough ride on this election coming up, and we don't want to put anybody saying something that there's shenanigans going on. So I appreciate you being there today for me, and I apologize I'm not there in person. Particularly with this bill, Mr. Chair, I really don't have any questions. It's just making an amendment to a bill that we passed, and we found that this would be more viable to allow additional time, which the Election Commission agrees to as well. So, of course, this bill was not done on my own. I'd like to thank those at the Election Commission and the board itself for putting this together. So I have no questions at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. So I just wanted to go over some of the description and history of the measure. The bill seeks to amend, like as I said, subsection 3110 of Chapter 3, Title 3, GCA concerning the appointment term of registration clerks under the Guam Election Commission. Bill 54-38 COR, which became Public Law 38-32, previously amended the law by extending the appointment cutoff from 21 days to 45 days before a general election. This measure, however, reverses that change by restoring the cutoff back to 21 days before a general election instead of 45. The GEC has since identified that the shorter appointment period would better reflect its operational needs and improve efficiency while still ensuring timely access to voter registration services. The bill also maintains that the GEC may establish separate terms of appointment for special elections, plebiscites, initiatives, or other non-general elections as needed. The bill strikes language that limits appointments to the next scheduled general election. And this striking broadens the scope so that the 21-day cutoff could apply to any election, not only general elections. Now, in practice, that could mean special elections, runoffs, plebiscites, or initiatives, unless the GEC sets a different term by policy, as it's still authorized to do. On the fiscal impact, again, it was given a waiver. The strengths of the bill: Guam has successfully operated under the 21-day cutoff before Public Law 38-32, extended it to 45 days. Returning to 21 days leverages a proven timeline that the Guam Election Commission is familiar with. The Commission has stated that a shorter appointment period aligns more closely with how it manages election operations, preventing unnecessary downtime between clerk service and election preparation. Weaknesses: moving the cutoff closer to election day reduces the time the GEC has to process new registrations across every type of election and may increase strain on staff and systems. Late surges of registration applications, especially before smaller, sudden special elections, could overwhelm resources and increase the risk of mistakes in voter rolls. And some critics may argue that applying the shorter cutoff universally, especially for fast-moving special elections, could strain the system and reduce public confidence, even if the GEC can technically manage it. And so, Executive Director, I did have some questions that I hope you can address. You previously supported extending the cutoff to 45 days under Public Law 38-32. What has changed to prompt the return to the 21-day cutoff?
So the 45-day recommendation from the Guam Election Commission was back in 2018. With our central voter registration, with our new central voter registration system, we are now capable of handling the processing and vetting of affidavits of registration. On top of that, with online and motor voter registration, our folks from the island can have easier access to to register. Anybody with a current Guam driver's license or a current Guam ID can register to vote online up to 21 days before the election.
Thank you. Thank you for that, ma'am. Did the commission consider any other cutoff periods as a compromise?
Sir, initially we were asking for 21 days for everything, but then in the past it was 10 days, so the compromise was 15 days.
What internal systems or staffing changes will be necessary to handle a possible late surge in voter registrations with the shorter timeline? That'd be a good problem if we had more people wanting to register to vote.
Well, hopefully everyone should be registered by then, but the system is such that our district registrars, we will have registrars in every village, in every mayor's office, and so what we do is we have it up until the 15th day before the election at 8 o'clock sharp. After the last person is registered, who was there at 8 o'clock, they'll close, they'll process, they'll come down to our office. And I think in 2024, we had a record time of leaving the office at 10 o'clock that night.
In the bill, removing scheduled general would apply the 21-day cutoff to all elections, general, special, plebiscites, initiatives. Does the GEC anticipate any issues with applying this uniform rule across all election types?
No, I believe that it just says an election or any election. With the runoff election, that it has to be held 14, if necessary, 14 days after the general. There's no registration in between. It's just the people that are eligible to register to vote in the runoff are the people that voted, that were registered for the general. So no, I don't foresee any issues.
Okay. If the bill passes, do you believe the commission will still have sufficient discretion to adjust terms for unique or accelerated elections?
Mr. Vice Chair, I think it's in law that says that registration is by law, so we just have to follow the mandate.
Thank you, Ms. Pangilinan. Mrs. Pangilinan. I'd like to recognize Senator Guvatauta for any questions you might have, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the record, a communication was sent to me. I currently serve as a chairman of the Republican Party of Guam. On behalf of the Republican Party of Guam, Jerry Crisostomo, Benny Pianala, and Antonia Gumatautel serve on behalf of the three members serve on the commission and represent our party on the commission, and I appreciate their service and input on this respective bill. Just to the GEC, if I can, just two questions. Based on the information that was provided through the election comparative analysis report, summarizing that only 3,082 out of the 12,694 individuals who registered to vote actually voted, what portion of, or maybe you can, I don't know if you can answer today, but what portion of the 1,417 individuals who registered in person were registered by volunteer registration clerks, and what is the average number of registrations that were completed by registration clerks, at least during the last 3 general elections? And if you don't have the answer today, I'm hoping that at least you can provide it back to the committee.
Yes, we have that all. We have that all documented with regard to actually registrate. The system says that these volunteer registrars have to come in and check with us every month from the time they are deputized. So we have that all, and we'll provide the legislature with that information.
Yes, thank you, Maria. I think the information is very key in how this particular statute, or at least the changes, can help in justifying it. And then only one other question on this is recognizing the consistent low voter turnout in recent elections. what considerations, if you can share for the public today, have been discussed by the GEC to increase voter participation? I know this is a voter registration bill, but to get them to get out and vote, including but not limited to election day registration, at least at the GEC main office or designated voting sites?
With regard to voter participation, Senator, I didn't get the last thing about polling sites.
Oh, just,
Oh,
is there
or
any way we
same-day
can maybe to
registration.
register up to election day if we had to?
Across the nation, there's same-day registration in some election jurisdictions. And as I looked through that and did, a real cursory research, one of the things is same-day registration may be good for Guam. And as I conceptualize it, it would be registration at the GEC. It behooves us to leave it to the precinct officials who are already busy with the regular election processes. So with regard to same-day registration, it would mean coming down to the Election Commission office on Election Day, providing proof of citizenship, ID, and proof of residency. And across the election jurisdictions that I've looked at, proof of residency would be possibly a lease, a power bill, and possibly even a mayor's verification if we can get it. Or if you want to think, if for some reason we can get, if it's not a mayoral election, maybe hook up with the mayor's offices to validate or verify, to strictly vet the residency of the potential registered voter.
Thank you for that. And I think from a primary election point of view, that would be very advantageous considering when the primaries are held or on an election day when it's on Super Tuesday. Who knows what that kind of number could be on any election year. So again, thank you for your testimony, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Siduswasi, Senator Gumatata for the questions, and Executive Director Pangilinan. I know we've had a lot of discussions about getting, it's one thing we have a record number of registered voters, and what was it, 60,000? Most registered voters we ever had in the history of Guam. But the issue is they're not going out to vote. And so I know in the discussions we've had, I think it always comes back to the quality candidates, good grassroots candidates. So anybody watching out there, don't be shy to throw your hat into the ring, as people of Guam are definitely looking for reasons to come out to cast their ballot. So if there's no one else that'd like to provide testimony, we'll consider Bill number 185-38 COR duly heard by the committee. The committee will continue to accept written testimonies on today's hearing within 5 business days from today, which may be mailed to 238 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 407 of the DNA building in Hagatna. You can also send your written testimony to the chair's office via email at senatortelot@gmail.com. That's senatortelot@gmail.com. The time is 1:28 Chamorro Standard Time. Biba will now move on to the second item on the agenda, which is Bill number 189-38, introduced by Senator Telo T. Taitague, an act to repeal and reenact Chapter 3, Title 6, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations, and adopt the attached exhibits A, B, and C relative to updating the Guam Election Commission election campaign contributions and expenditures, rules and regulations, and report forms. Fiscal note was received from BBMR on September 22nd, and that fiscal note, BBMR provided the following. It should be noted that subsection 3113 and 3114, cited in section 2 of the proposed legislation, imposes fines for exceeding contribution limits and fines in general for persons, corporations, organizations, or associations who violate provisions in Title III GCA, Chapter 17. While there's a potential fiscal impact relative to revenues from fines collected the Bureau is unable to determine the estimated fiscal impact absent additional information from the GEC, including data on past contribution and reporting violations. It should be noted that the GEC did not provide a response to BBMR as of the date the fiscal note was prepared. The committee also notes, as part of the administrative adjudication process, GEC submitted and the Governor and Attorney General approved its economic impact statement that the proposed rules do not exceed the $500,000 threshold set by the AAA. The determination by the OAG, as stated in the accompanying memorandum, reference GEC 250377, stated, the agency record does not include documentation that the rules were also posted on the website, and also does not include documentation that a preliminary cost impact assessment was available prior to the public hearing. To achieve strict technical compliance, GEC could conduct another public hearing, considering, however, that no member of the public submitted comments regarding the rules of the election manual, that the preliminary cost impact assessment determined that there would be no additional cost to the general public to implement the rules or the election manual, and that all other notices and posting requirements were met. GEC appears to have substantially complied with the law. On the bill, an initial review of the bill was conducted by the legislature's legal counsel with no recommendations at this time, but the bill does remain under review. The following entities were invited to provide testimony on the bill. Again, the Guam Election Commission, the Office of the Public Auditor, the Democratic Party of Guam, and the Republican Party of Guam. Senators and the viewing public present, thank you for being here today and for your participation. Bill 189-38 is a measure that seeks the legislature's adoption of the GEC's updated election campaign contributions and expenditures rules and regulations pursuant to the administrative adjudication law. The intent of this bill is to strengthen compliance with Chapter 17 of Title III GCA by providing the Guam Election Commission with the tools and procedures needed to enforce our campaign finance laws fairly, consistently, and transparently. Now, while the statute sets the framework, these rules give life to the law by detailing how reports are filed, how contributions are handled, and how enforcement is carried out. I want to thank, of course, the Guam Election Commission for its hard work in reviewing, drafting, and advancing these proposed amendments to ensure our laws are implemented effectively. And these updates bring several important benefits. Firstly, they modernize reporting by requiring electronic submission of campaign finance reports. That improves accessibility, efficiency, and accuracy for both candidates and the voting public. They establish clear deadlines and procedures for depositing contributions, returning excess funds, and amending reports, ensuring contributions are handled properly and promptly. They also provide a structured fine schedule and cure periods, balancing accountability with fairness so that penalties are proportionate while still protecting the integrity of the law. They strengthen due process by outlining clear hearing procedures, advisory opinion timelines, and dissolution requirements, giving candidates, parties, and the public greater confidence in how the rules are applied. Most importantly, they promote public trust in Guam's elections by demonstrating that campaign finance is monitored with consistency and transparency. Colleagues, Bill 189-38 is about fairness, making sure that our election system is transparent, that no donor has undue influence, and that every candidate is held to the same standard. It's also about confidence in ensuring that voters know their voices, not money, guide the outcome of our elections. I look forward to the testimony from the GEC and feedback from the public auditor, our political parties, and members of the public, including those who may be running for office for the first time. Good luck. Their perspectives will help us ensure that these rules are not only enforceable, but also fair and accessible to all who serve our island. Again, Dr. Lunasidus Masi to the GEC for your continued efforts, and to all of you for your time and attention today. I look forward with working together with you to advance this measure. We'll now receive testimony on Bill number 189-38 COR, starting with, oh wow, surprise, Executive Director Pangilinan. Welcome back.
Bill 189-38 introduces the proposed updates to Title VI, Chapter 3 of the Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to election campaign contributions and expenditures. with the recent passage of Public Law 38-18, which changed the reporting requirements for campaign activities to quarterly reporting, the updates to the GAR ensures that the necessary administrative procedures are in place to fully execute the requirements of Public Law 38-18, and that the GEC has ample time to update its candidate and campaign materials for the 2026 elections. Please note that the reference exhibits A, B, and C, that's the organizational report, election campaign contributions and expenditures report, and the report for dissolution respectively, should be appended to the bill. At its public meeting on April 14, 2025, the Guam Election Commission approved these updates. In compliance with 5 GCA Section 9303A4, the GEC transmitted the proposed changes to Imagahagan Guahan and the Attorney General on June 27, 2025, and both offices have since provided their approval. Please note that the estimated economic impact of the proposed changes does not exceed the $500,000 threshold established under the AAA process. Sidzuis Maasi.
Sidzuis Maasi, Director Pangilinan, and just on behalf of the committee, as you had stated, exhibits A, B, and C, which are right here. So my colleagues might want to start practicing filling these out. And don't get intimidated for any new grassroots or first-time candidates out there. The GEC is very accommodating and assisting candidates or organizations with filling out these forms, which, you know, by my own admission can be intimidating sometimes. So I thank you for that. But these exhibits were not uploaded at the time of the bill's introduction. Now, accordingly, they'll be added by the committee during the bill markup process. But copies of these exhibits are included with the bill package, have been distributed to each senator in attendance, and have also been made available in the Google Drive folder accessible through the link provided in the public hearing notices. At this time, I'd like to recognize Senator Gumatauta for any questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the record, I would like to state that I currently serve as the chairman of the Republican Party of Guam, where the notice for this bill was sent to for testimony. Again, for this particular measure and all GEC-related matters, they are done in close cooperation with the commission or board of commissioners that were appointed by the Republican Party of Guam, Mr. Jerry Crisostomo, Ms. Antonia Gumatauta, and Mr. Benny Pinella, who have served very well in support of not only the party, but in service to the people of Guam relative to work with the GEC. Just a couple of questions if I can to Maria, if I can. Based on our current election statute, which requires campaign funds from candidates and political organizations not affiliated with a political party that are, you know, maybe working here, what information is available regarding the amount of funds which have been redirected to the government if they can't go anywhere else pursuant to law, at least during maybe the last 3 elections, 24, 22, 20? Have you seen any of that type of transfer of funds or have any word of transfer of funds for non-party related folks?
If you're referring to campaign funds that were originally reported as campaign funds to the Guam Election Commission, we haven't seen anything transferred to the government of Guam. The law says that if they're dissolving or if they're going to go run for another office, the candidate is required to either transfer the funds to their political party or to a candidate that's running for the same, that's up for the same seat, the same office.
So from your experience, you haven't seen any independent candidate giving any money to a party or candidate in your experience of the last three cycles?
Well, we have had political action committees, and so those report to us, and then we just put together the dissolution forms, but we know that they're dissolved as soon as there's no funds in the campaign fund.
All right, thank you. And only one other question. Recognizing that other jurisdictions allow for unused campaign funds for various purposes, including the state of Georgia, which offers more flexibility than federal regulations allowing leftover funds to be transferred to another campaign saved for future campaigns or donated to political parties and charities, or the state of Oregon, which permits the use of campaign funds for any lawful purpose other than personal use. What discussions, if any, have been put forward by members of the GEC regarding ways to responsibly dispose of unspent campaign contributions, such as designating these particular resources for maybe local charities?
With that question, sir, I must say that in most cases we will say that we're ministerial in nature and we follow what the law says. And right now the law says those residual funds get transferred to a political party or to a candidate that's running, to a candidate that's running for the same office. Campaigns have called asking us, can they donate to a nonprofit or, like, for example, a medical fundraiser. The law says all campaign funds must be spent to a direct expense to their campaign. Vote for Senator Sean Gumatauta, vote for Chris Barnett, vote for Telo Taitague. Only those expenditures are appropriate with the campaign funds.
All right, thank you for that, and thank you for the endorsements in advance. I appreciate it, and to my colleague. Those are my only questions. Thank you, Senator.
Cesar Swasi, Senator Gumatauta. Thank you, Director Pangilinan, for your bipartisan encouragement. Appreciated. Just some of the notes that, as I kind of mentioned earlier, grassroots candidates, first-time candidates, may face higher administrative or financial burdens to comply with some of the electronic filing, and the structured fine schedule that the rules propose may penalize small clerical errors, which could discourage individuals from running or even volunteering as treasurers. I mean, as the rules and regs as they exist today, I mean, they are a little daunting, even for, I'll just mention in my case, I have a guy who used to work for BBMR and retired in finance out of the government, and, there are challenges, I think, that accomplished accountants sometimes face with just some of the filings and things that come with running for public office. So I kind of wanted to ask, what kind of training are you guys going to provide to candidates, especially the newer candidates, to protect them? I'm not saying it's necessarily your job to protect them, but to help them avoid being unfairly penalized for minor errors. And will the Commission handle minor clerical mistakes in reporting to avoid disproportionately penalizing candidates with small or volunteer-run campaigns?
First and foremost, the reason why we're asking for the approval of this GAR is that we want to start candidate seminars. At this candidate seminar, the main focus of discussion in most seminars is campaign finance. With regard to the daunting fact of filling out these forms, our staff, we have a staff that's dedicated to, 3 of them dedicated to campaign finance. On top of that, with the current change to report quarterly, excuse me, with the current change to report quarterly, what has happened is that candidates come in early enough for us to review and to make corrections. With regard to the fines, we have started to issue campaign advisory opinions.
Ma'am, would you like, let's just take can we take a 1-minute recess? Thank you.
I'm okay. So with the
Okay,
campaign,
we're back. Senator Swasi. I meant 1 second.
with the campaign, with the daunting campaign forms, we have issued advisory opinions. As questions and discussions come up in the campaign finance, we intend to issue out additional advisory opinions for our candidates to adhere to.
I know that the GEC currently and historically struggles with staffing shortages. So how do you think you're going to be able to accomplish these advisory opinions and this monitoring of the campaign finance while also doing all the other things that you always have to do?
So with the quarterly reporting, we are now looking at these campaign finance reports starting the next due date is October 15th. So we have time before the full election preparation starts. Come closer to the elections, we will hire temporary staff, and they should be able to help us.
What about overtime costs?
Our overtime cost has been pretty steady, except the biggest overtime cost is not in campaign finance, it's in the early voting. You know, we staffed the early voting for about 7,000. I think the highest was 12,000 too. So that's where our overtime costs come in.
You know, it's been kind of standard practice over the last and the previous term and the fiscal year, especially during election ones, you guys come in for a supplemental appropriation. Is that something you're anticipating with the passage of any of these bills? So
in fiscal year 25 was the very first time that we received what we asked for in the budget request. With fiscal year 26, we don't have a budget yet, but with the proposed budget, it sounds like our budgets that we have, our current budget, will be continued. So with that said, and banning any something that's we're not looking at right now in terms of unnatural or even natural disasters, we should be okay. If prices of other things rise sky high, maybe we will come back. But at this point, our budget, we're pretty confident that our budget is okay. Thank you.
When you say something unnatural happening, are you talking about maybe some type of special election, if someone were to step down from an elected office, or would that be a little speed bump?
Yeah, so again, it depends on if it's a district special election or an island-wide special election. But as if that occurs, we will look at it immediately at the budget, and there's processes in place where the election commission will be able to say, okay, you know, somebody declares it, the governor declares that a special election is needed, the commission says, okay, we're going to have it, and then within 30 days it happens, and so we can cover it with what existing appropriations we have, and should we run out for the actual primary election, we will be back long before the primary election expenses are incurred.
Senator Swasi, Director Pangilinan, and dispensa Laya, but Senator Telo Taitague is still on the Zoom, and I'd like to recognize her for some questions. Sorry, Madam Chair. Stand by. My lip reading is a little rusty. AV? Senator, can you give us a sound check again? Say Biba Betness.
Okay,
Okay,
it's
there you
not
go.
them.
There you go.
The AV
Okay.
is doing their job. It's definitely not them. My bad. It was my fault. So apologize for that. But Mr. Chair, no worries. The questions that you asked were excellent questions. They definitely bring to light some of the concerns that some candidates may have and may deter from wanting to run. But what we're doing here is to ensure that the law is followed. A lot of times you hear about in-kind contributions that are questionable. And I'm sure the Election Commission has set this up so that they give ample time in order to train the candidates and to provide them guidance, which is important. As you know, it's not easy running a campaign, but it gets even more difficult running your book for a campaign. And a lot of people are not accountants in that perspective. But I did want to ask, though, Maria, where in this section is there in kind that was discussed on, with what is the definition of in kind and what is the limit on that? Is it in this section here, or am I jumping to another article? Okay.
So, in-kind contributions, the most complicated thing or the questions always asked is how do you put a value to it? So we advise the candidate that the value, make sure it's not something make sure it's realistic as far as the value goes. With regard to in-kind contributions, that increases the contribution, that goes to the limit, you calculate that towards the limit for contributions by an individual. Corporations are not allowed to give in-kind contributions, any kind of materials. Corporations are limited to cash contributions to fundraisers. In-kind contributions, if Maria Pangilinan says she's going to give some lumber for the signs, that $300 worth of lumber will be calculated towards the maximum amount that Maria Pangilinan can give the candidate. The maximum amount of the maximum contribution is $1,000 per candidate, per election, per calendar year. Hence, in-kind contributions figure into that, Madam Chair, and it is still in Chapter 17 of the Code and in this part of GAR.
Okay, and that in-kind contribution perspective when it comes to corporations, as you mentioned, and it's clear, so hopefully anybody who's listening to this understand that corporations can only donate to a candidate in cash. I just wanted to verify again, only in cash. Is that, Maria?
Yes, and the cash contribution must be attributed to a fundraiser. Simply stated, corporations are strictly limited to buy fundraising tickets up to a maximum of $500 per fundraiser, per candidate, per election, per candidate. So if for the candidate to optimize the corporation's contributions, the candidate can have up to 2 fundraisers where the corporation can give $500 for the first one in terms of tickets and $500 in tickets for the second fundraiser.
Thank you so much, Maria. In regards to personal, we all know that that limit is 1,000 per per election. And Maria, just to clarify one thing, if sometimes candidates will get from one household 2 checks, one from the wife and one from the husband. They have separate checking accounts. But what if the check comes to them in one check where they're joint, bank holders in that account? Is that okay to do? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So one household is not 1,000, it's per person. That means the husband, the wife, a daughter, a son.
Our form accommodates Mrs. Telo Taitague reporting that Ms. Telo Taitague contributed $1,000. Mr. John Binadu from the same household contributed $1,000. If the check came in as a $2,000 check, but reported as $1,000 from Mrs. Telo Taitague and $1,000 from Mr. John Binadu, as far as the Guam Election Commission goes, what you reported was appropriate.
Okay, just wanted to make that clear, because that's the whole purpose too, Mr. Chair, on this legislation, and what we're trying to correct is there's been so many misguided information on what you can and cannot do in an election. So I think trying to clear it up as much as we can, the understanding, especially between a personal and corporation, there is a big difference. Later on, if there's any concerns, we can talk about, what is that, Maria? The PAC group, where individuals get together for, can you mention that again, what a PAC group is?
Political action committees are formed to either support an issue that's on the ballot or support a candidate independent of the candidate. Once the candidate gets involved, it's not anymore a political action committee. So political action committees, I repeat, operate independent of any candidate.
Okay, and that's very important, because that's not always the case. And I'm hoping that there is ways to police these PAC groups, because it's been in the past where these PAC groups actually meet with the candidates on a regular basis on what they need and how much they can get this month or something. Is there any way that you do look that over on these PAC groups? How do you police that?
So political action committees report to us just like any other candidate. If a complaint comes into us, then there will be an investigation. But until such time, the Guam Election Commission is limited to what is reported to us on their campaign forms.
Okay. And the fines that you, last question, Mr. Chair, and the fines that you incorporated in this, that was incorporated in this legislation, was there any increase, or is it just the same amount on the fines?
I'm sorry, Senator?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get cut off? I apologize.
No.
The fines, the fines that are in this bill, you see excess amount, fine imposed, are the fines for candidates who are, disingenuous or found guilty of, doing some shenanigans. Are there fines that have been already increased? Because this could be something that was done a while ago. Are there any fines?
Okay, so Chapter 17 of the Code, of the Election Code of Guam, in dealing with campaign contributions and expenditures, they have limits and minimum. They mention in the code minimum and maximum fines With the list of fines, the schedule of fines that we have in GAR now, it's specific to whatever the candidate doesn't, whatever the candidate doesn't comply with. And so this is the first time that there's a specific schedule to different, for the different infractions of the campaign finance law.
Okay, and I'm sure you're going to mention those fines to candidates running way ahead of time of the election as they pick up their packets to, as the chairman, finding ways to train candidates and help them out to understand. But thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to ask some questions, and thank you so much, Maria.
Hey, sure thing, Madam Chair. You got it. Sidos Masi for sticking around on the Zoom, and Dispensa again for the late recognition. Director Pangilinan, I want to just ask for a clarification on the following. The administrative adjudication law requires agencies to certify whether proposed rules have a fiscal impact above or below $500,000. The Commission has estimated that these updates to Chapter 3 of Title 6 GAR and the updates to the Guam Election Manual will not exceed that threshold. So I was wondering if you could just kind of walk us through the methodology and assumptions you used to arrive at that determination, particularly with respect to the costs of electronic filing systems, staffing for enforcement, advisory opinion processing, and possible candidate outreach and training.
So the current operation with regard to campaign finance continues in the same line. So we have the staff on board. I think one point of clarification is we're not looking at the amount spent on the actual campaigns. We are looking at the adherence or the process of ensuring that the candidates adhere to the rules and regulations and the laws of campaign finance. So with that said, we have 3 folks working on campaign finance. We do candidate seminars. That doesn't cost us anything, any additional, there's no additional expenses to that. We have the esteemed Ana Ramirez conducting the candidate seminars, and the review of the filings is within, at this point, done inside of the regular working hours.
Just going back to the PAC thing, because I anticipate, like the previous election, there have been a lot of polarizing and hot button issues that we've been discussing here in the legislature. So I'm anticipating that there'll be PACs forming to come out and say, don't vote for this Godzu, or, vote for that one. So, with that being said, what does the Guam Election Commission do when they receive a concern from somebody that says, hey, I saw the head of this PAC, eating lunch at Shirley's with this senator who they endorsed? Does that constitute in the GEC's mind, or even in the bill that we're discussing, involvement with candidate involvement with the PAC?
We'd have to take a look at it, and with the it'll go before the board. It's something that the board needs to discuss, and of course, we will have our legal counsel right along with us. The political action committees, they report just like any candidate reports, and so when complaints come in, yes, the investigation will begin with the commissioners involved and the legal counsel.
I think the maybe, at least in my mind, more of the problem is that there doesn't necessarily have to be involvement with the candidates and the PAC, because they're moving in tandem in so many ways. So while there might not be an overt lunch meeting or a discussion on, hey, please tell people don't vote for these colleagues who didn't support the BPT rollback or whatever. That's probably more of the issue, is that there doesn't have to be that direct contact, but they are working in tandem for a shared cause. You know, can I just go back to the in-kind contributions? So I had a question from somebody. Does that include food contributions?
So it's, you know, when you have your meetings, your campaign meetings, if it's what we kind of label de minimis, you know, it's just, oh, if the potato salad, you made the potato salad at home, we don't expect the candidate or the campaign to report that.
Well, what if somebody donated like 10 roast pigs? You know, I mean, that's pretty significant.
Yes.
The roast pigs, like 500, 600, you know,
Okay.
unless you're the farmer. That would exceed the
yeah.
threshold, right?
Yes, so that's where, if he's the farmer and that's his business, then that should be reported. If, you know, and I don't know, I mean, a GEC doesn't go to the campaign meetings, but I wonder if there's ever a time when there's 5 roast pigs on the table.
Maybe not at one meeting, Director Pangolino, but spread out over the campaign. I check these guys, plenty budget. Okay, Sidus Masi. And again, that if there's no one else here to provide testimony, and there isn't, we'll consider Bill number 189-38 COR duly heard by the committee. The committee will continue to accept written testimonies on today's hearing within 5 business days from today, which may be mailed to the office at the Senator Taitague's office at 238 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 407 of the DNA building in Hagatna. You can also send written testimony to her office via email, Senator Telo T at gmail.com. That's SENATORTELOT at gmail.com. The time is 2:07 Chamorro Standard Time. We'll now move on to the third and final item on the agenda. Bill number 190-38. COR, introduced by Senator Telo T. Taitague, an act to add a new Chapter 5 to Title 6 of the Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations relative to updating the Guam Election Manual pursuant to Chapter 9, Title 5, GCA. On the fiscal note, Bill number 190-38 received a fiscal note waiver from BBMR, noting that the proposed amendment is administrative in nature and poses no additional fiscal impact upon any funds of the government of Guam in fiscal year 2025. An initial review of the bill was conducted by the legislature's legal counsel with no recommendations on it this time, but the bill remains under review. Public hearing invitations were sent to the following to provide testimony on the measure: the Guam Election Commission, the Office of the Public Auditor, the Democratic Party of Guam, and the Republican Party of Guam. I'd like to also read the following statement from the chair of the committee. Thank you for attending today's hearing on Bill number 190-38. I also want to extend my sincere gratitude to the Guam Election Commission Director, Maria Pangolinan, the hardworking GEC staff, and the members of the public present. In particular, I want to thank the Commission for their tireless work to review, update, and modernize our election rules and regulations and the election manual. Your diligence and professionalism made this legislation possible. Bill 190-38 COR was introduced on behalf of the GEC and pursuant to the administrative adjudication law. The bill advances a simple and important goal to adopt the GEC's updated election manual as our governing rules for administering elections pursuant to 3 GCA subsection 2104. The update reflects years of lessons learned and public feedback. It clarifies what our election officials must do, strengthens accountability, and makes it easier for every eligible voter to participate in our elections with confidence. The benefits are concrete. The manual modernizes early and absentee voting by providing clearer guidance for early in-office voting, vote centers, and spoiled ballot handling, and the 10-day absentee window, so lines move faster, records are cleaner, and results are more auditable. It elevates accessibility by setting out a dedicated, accessible voting process consistent with best practices, so voters with disabilities receive timely assistance without confusion. It improves transparency by standardizing forms, inventories, and close-of-night reconciliations, clarifying media and photography protocols, and establishing an administrative complaints process so issues are documented and addressed. In short, the bill replaces ambiguity with checklists and chain of custody, reducing errors, disputes, and provisional ballots. The bill also honors process. The GEC vetted these updates. The Attorney General reviewed them for constitutionality and substantial compliance. And today's hearing allows us to take public testimony, surface any fiscal impacts for training, signage, and IT support, and sequence implementation responsibly within available resources. Where stakeholders recommend refinements, I'm open to committee amendments by strengthening public trust and easing the transition. Our elections belong to the people of Guam. By adopting this updated manual, we make them cleaner, more accessible, and more secure. I respectfully ask my colleagues' support on behalf of the chair to advance Bill number 190-38. And we will now receive testimony on Bill number 190, starting with and probably finishing with Executive Director Pangilinan. Sidus Masi.
Bill 190-38 introduces the proposed update to the Election Manual of Guam. The Election Manual, originally created in 2015, has been reviewed and updated to strengthen and clarify the administration of our island's electoral process. The proposed legislation ensures that GEC has ample time to implement these updates in its training materials as it prepares for the 2026 elections. At its public meeting on April 14, 2025, the Guam Election Commission approved these updates. In compliance with the AAA process, the GEC transmitted the proposed changes to Imagahagan and the Attorney General on June 27, 2025, and both offices have since provided their approval. The estimated economic impact of the proposed changes does not exceed the $500,000 threshold established under the AAA process. While the election manual was being updated, new voter registration laws were enacted. In concert with the legislature, the GEC remains committed to strengthening the administration of elections and is continuing to prepare for future improvements and respectfully request the following amendments be considered on the election manual. The election manual is made up of over 70 pages, and so on page 13, as it addresses when to register, the GEC recommends that the last day to register be changed from 15 days to 10 days prior to any election. I want to make it clear that we're requesting that the change be made from 10 to 15 days so that it's consistent with the code. And that's on page 13. On page 17, we want to substitute, instead of 3-day grace period for the voter registrar to submit all the materials and supplies, we want to give them 5 days before any negative action is taken on them. That means if they don't return it on the deadline, the deadline would be 21 days before an election, then they will be given 5 days of grace period instead of the 3 that's sitting there now, and to report their names to the Attorney General. On page 17, again, to be consistent, we want the times of registration to be within 15 days of an election instead of the 10. We want, on page 17 again, we want the cessation of district registration when we want the district registration to close in 15 days rather than 10 days. And we will want to give the district registrars 5 days of grace period instead of the 3 that's there now. On page 12, Public Law 33-12 is now codified into the 3 GCA 3102. And that's the only change we want on that section, where instead of citing Public Law 33-12, we will now want to replace it with 3 GCA Section 3102C. Finally, on page 13, with regard to online registration, we want to put this section in, any qualified person who has a valid Guam driver's license or Guam identification card may submit a voter registration application online at the Guam Election Commission's website at www.gec.guam.gov. I'm sorry, the final one is just to change when candidates file, and that's on page 27. And instead of 130 days, candidates can file for the Attorney General, the Public Auditor, the Guam Education Board, and the Consolidated Commission on Utilities instead of 130 days before the general election. It's 160 days before the general election and no later than 90 days before the general election will be their deadline. So with all these changes, we want the people of Guam to know that the Guam Election Commission anticipates the use of electronic poll books for the 2026 election cycle to replace paper signature rosters. As required by the Election Code, we want to assure the voters of Guam that the GEC will conduct an island-wide education campaign to ensure that our voters are informed, comfortable, and confident in utilizing this technology and further improvement with current best practices. Sizuus Maasi.
Sizus Masi, Director Pangilinan. At this time, I'd like to recognize Senator Telo Taitague on the Zoom for any questions on the bill. Madam Chair. Unmute.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have very many questions on this. Just one major question is all the amendments that, Maria, that you provided in your testimony, are any of these amendments outside of what we've already passed into law that's in the Guam Code annotated currently?
None, ma'am. What we do is we operate within, we take the mandates, those are what we call the laws. We take it, and so as processes, as best practices become available, Senator, we take those and we see how they can best fit, or if they fit, with our Guam election processes. No, none of them go against the code. Everything that we're proposing is within code, and everything we're proposing as our esteemed employees of the Guam Election Commission, as they come up to make their jobs easier and to make the election processes of Guam much better.
Yeah, and also, you know, to have that same parallel review, having it in the GAR as well as the Guam Code annotated is very important, so there's no misunderstanding. Other than that, I thank you so much for your hard work on this, because I know it did take some time to put this together, and greatly appreciate it. And I will do my best to try and get this on the next session. In the meantime, we will set up a markup meeting as well. That's going to be very important. I will allow ample time for any of the public out there who have any questions or want to provide additional testimony to this. But I think this bill should be very easy, because it's just like you said, mirroring the Guam Code. Other than that, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Maria and Tom and your staff that is there. I greatly appreciate all their hard work.
Sidos Masi, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to recognize Senator Gumatauta for any questions. Senator?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again, Maria, for testifying. For the record, I want to just share that I currently serve as the chairman for the Republican Party of Guam. The Republican Party of Guam, under the laws and our rules and bylaws, do appoint members to the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Election Commission. They currently are Jerry Crisostomo, Benny Pinala, and Antonia Gumatauta. Again, this in line with all of the proper rules and regulations. If I can, for the record, also mention, just so we can get it out there, during that April 14th, 2025 meeting that you referenced in your testimony, according to the minutes, I just want to share that it was Commissioner Benny Pinala who moved to accept the updates to the election manual, subject to including the requirements to registration and absentee ballots imposed by President Donald J. Trump's executive order preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections, that was seconded by Commissioner Tony Gumatauta as well. The motion unanimously carried, and they were able to send that to us as what we are dealing with today. I only have one question, and it's to clarify, how do the provisions of Public Law 38-32 that was enacted in June of 2025 reconcile with the proposed election manual, recognizing that Section 6 of Public Law 38-32 requires that within 15 calendar days after any election, the Commission shall count the provisional voters' choices for every race for which the voter was eligible to vote, whereas the election manual provides that within 10 days after an election, when the voter's application shall have been satisfactorily completed and deemed valid, the provisional ballot shall be counted?
It needs to be changed to 15 days. So, Senator Sean, what's happening in the past is that the old law says that we have to count those provisional ballots within 10 work days. So imagine that the provisional voter has 7 work days to clear their provisional ballot. Like if they didn't bring in their ID at election day, they come. Then the Guam Election Commission has up to the 10th day only to vet all the provisional ballots. Then we have to count on that last day. So giving us the 15 days gives us a little bit more time to vet those. And at the markup session where Senator Telo will invite us, we will ensure that that's also corrected.
All right, thank you so much. And considering my deep experience with that provisional, or that little experience with the provisional counting, I totally get it. Thank you again, GEC, for all that you do, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time today.
Sidos Masi, Senator Gumatauta. Director Pangilinan, I know that, I want to thank you for the amendments, but I also wanted to ask, are there specific problems or gaps that in the 2015 manual that the new manual will update and or solve, and are you able to cite any specific examples from prior elections?
There are some, for example, how the ballots are printed. And so we were thinking of striking it all out, but in 2015, we were doing offset printing. Now, with the new machines, we can simply print I don't know all the stuff, but we can print them ourselves, and we print them in-house. There are other things that, and this is the dilemma we have. As we learn of best practices in the election industry, we tend to bring it up to the commissioners. The commissioners look at what's best for the for Guam elections, and we want to put it in place, and we do. Unfortunately, with the requirement for the election manual to go through the AAA process, there's a lag time in there where these best practices are not incorporated into the election manual. So we've had discussions with Senator Telo's office with regard to this issue about best practices coming up, lagging behind the AAA process that's required for the election manual.
Sidus Masi, Director Pangilinan, and again, I want to commend the hardworking Guam Election Commission staff. We got to commend you guys plenty, TT, because election next year, nice. So you are very commended and recognized and appreciated for all your hard work. And just to the viewing public, again, thank you for watching. And so the intent with a lot of these bills, at least the intent should be to make it easier for not only the Guam Election Commission to conduct free and fair elections, but also to make it easier for the people of Guam to come out and cast their ballots. You know, previous laws have made it easy to register to vote, and you know, whether or not that's beneficial to the process or the people, I think remains to be seen, because what's ended up happening is we have a record number of registered voters, but we're seeing record lows in the turnout. And so again, I want to reiterate my call to candidates out there to don't be shy about, you know, putting your hat in the ring. Don't be shy about running for office. I'm going to tell you, in my little experience as a senator, one thing that we're lacking in public service is people with the perspective that reflects the needs and wants of the grassroots people. So especially to the grassroots candidates out there, don't be shy. If you need help, you know, learning about the process, the Guam Election Commission is standing by. But more importantly, it's the people of Guam who need help in terms of being served by individuals who have the same perspective as our grassroots, hardworking people do. We need more hands in here that raise for the right issues. So I want to again encourage candidates, anybody who's thinking about it. If you need help, you know, let us know. We'll help you too. And we definitely need help in the legislature in terms of having a body that's more representative of the people we serve. And by saying that, I don't necessarily mean by ethnicity or that type of demographic. I mean people who struggle, who have challenges with day-to-day life. Those are the kind of perspectives that we need inside this public hearing room and across at the session hall. So let's do it, break fluid. And again, Director Pangilinan and Sidus Masi for your testimony and your insight today, as well as your staff, Mr. Ramirez and Mr. San Augustine, Sidus Masi, Senator Gumatautal, for your attendance. Madam Chair, thank you again for the opportunity to chair the hearing today. And if there's no one else who would like to provide testimony, we'll consider Bill number 190-38 COR duly heard by the committee. The committee will continue to accept written testimonies on today's hearing within 5 business days from today, which may be mailed to the office at 238 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 407 of the DNA building in Hagatna. You can also send your written testimony to the committee chair's office via email, senatortelot@gmail.com. That's senatortelot@gmail.com. Sidus Masi for your participation. This hearing is now adjourned. The time is 2:30 Chamorro Standard Time. In the words of Madam Chair, create a great day. Guahusi Senador, Chris Malafunction Barnett, Biba Betnes. Please have a safe and fun weekend, my dear people of Guam. Hasta. Adios.